The bandwidth for this episode of the AR-15 podcast is sponsored by the Firearms Radio Network. Firearmsradio.tv.
Welcome to episode number 101 of the AR-15 podcast. I'm your host, Reed Snyder, and with me today is my co-host, Anthony Hardy. This is the podcast about your favorite black rifle, and this show is for you, whether you're building your first AR or you've been building ARs for years. There is something we can all do to take our black rifle to the next level. Well, Anthony, happy gobble gobble week to you.
Yes, turkey time! I'm excited.
I see that you've sequestered yourself to an undisclosed location. I'm assuming this is your annual rite of turkey passage here. You're visiting family somewhere, I presume.
That would be correct. That would be correct, Reed. I've taken my annual trip up to North Georgia to visit my family, and looking forward to spending time with aunts and uncles and my dad and my brother and my sister, and it's gonna be a good time. How about you? What you doing?
Well, I am still in my hometown, and I am fortunate in that all of my family live within a stone's throw of me. So the holidays have always been a time where I don't have to do any real traveling. My in-law is coming into town, and there's exciting stuff afoot in the Snyder household. So it's going to be a good it's going to be a good week for us all.
Very good. Very good.
Other than that, not a great deal of anything.
Well, should I tease just a little bit about what I did today, since we do have it in the can?
I think that would be fine, but I think you need to preface it with what it is that we're going to be doing that'll give people an opportunity to see that stuff.
Well, let me let you make that announcement.
Talking
Go
code
ahead.
and cryptic messages for them.
Never tell anybody what we're really doing. Why would we tell anybody what we're doing? It's not like we want them to go and see it or anything.
All right, go ahead.
So, Reed, I'm going to let you make the first announcement, and then I'll talk a little bit about what I'm doing today that will apply to that first announcement.
Well, we have been really given a great opportunity by the network to give the AR-15 podcast a forum to go out and just really put together a lot of the resources that we have at our disposal, a lot of the material and content and media that we have at our disposal in one handy place for you guys to all see it. Certainly I am among the many, many great minds, the least of whom you should be asking technical questions about social media, and in fact I have been referring to all social media outlets as multimedia for about a week and a half, as the rest of the staff snickers at me and points derisively in my general direction. But I figured that out, after being told that I was sounding a little idiotic. Anyways,
we've got to appeal to those that are younger than our 150-year-old hosts. So
I'm not quite that old, but I can tell you that I remember TVs that did not have remote controls. You had to get up and touch them to make them change channels.
I'm not going to talk about the fact that I was used as a remote control.
Well, that being the case, we are going to make a push to really kind of cement that presence so that you guys know that there's a place to go for this content, and a place to go where you guys can keep up and talk about the things that we're talking about on our show. And I guess this would be a social media cluster of people or fans or follower, whatever it is. Anyways,
community. It's a community building.
It's a community. We're building a community. In any case.
So, what Reed's referring to is us getting our own AR-15 podcast branded social media presence. So don't think we haven't been using social media. Obviously, if you listen to the outro to the show, you know we do. We do use the Firearms Radio Network social media, and we will continue to do so in the same capacity that we always have. But we will be launching our own social media presence. And with that new social media presence, we're going to introduce a new type of content. If you do happen to come to YouTube and you've gone to the Firearms Radio Network YouTube channel and subscribed over there, we appreciate that. But be aware that we are going to introduce some new content that will be available through the new AR-15 branded social media pages, and especially on YouTube, where we're going to do some shorter, more video-focused pieces that will not necessarily appear on the podcast. Some of those pieces will come out as a podcast available piece for you guys to listen to, and I don't know, we may even launch some of those as video podcasts in the same feed. We'll just have to see. We still have some discussions on that to do, but they'll definitely be available over on YouTube and be pushed out through our other social media outlets for you guys to take advantage of. And some of those pieces are going to have some really interesting little tidbits that we get to do. One of those I got a very wonderful chance to partake in today, and that was to do a behind-the-scenes shoot with Iraq Vet 8888. So we got to talk to Eric and Chad today and spend some time with them on the range, actually, during some testing and get some good footage and find out how they do business. And they were testing a new Troy product. I won't spoil that for them. I don't think it's nothing revolutionary. It's already been out on the market, but they were doing some testing with the new Troy product, and got to partake in that a little bit and had a lot of fun with some discussions and got some really great footage from them and some wonderful pictures, and we'll be getting those up as soon as we get a chance to get all that stuff put together, probably sometime in the next week or two, and that will be one of the first things we launch. And then there'll be a lot of other little things that we're going to have as we want to focus on some products that might be available for you guys to go take a look at. Now, these are not necessarily sponsors. They may be things that we enjoy. They may be things that we think are products that you guys would like to know about, that the sponsors or that the vendors come to us and say, hey, we'd like for you guys to tell your listeners about. But we'll make sure we disclose all that information, and we make a promise to our listeners. I'm not going to tell you that a product is great unless I have used it and I believe it's great, and I think our other hosts would adhere to that same structure. Don't you think, Reed?
Absolutely. It's going to be the de facto approach to basically talking to all of you. And, you know, I think that with the help of all of our listeners and what every one of us has put our hands on and really enjoyed, we've had a very frank discussion about a lot of good products, and I think that we've had a lot of people comment on things that they really weren't very happy with. So I think that that's something we want to encourage till the very end of this ride, and make sure that that's the tenet we stand on for the whole time.
100% agree. Now, that said, of course, please keep in mind that Brownells does help make this show possible. So don't forget that Brownells is always there for you with their 100% lifetime satisfaction guarantee. Anytime you have a problem, like when you can't remove the taper pins from your new barrel or to slip off the front sight base, and you now have to find a new barrel, which we did do. And you can also always shop for all of your AR-15 parts at Brownells. Go to ar15podcast.com/parts. And now, Reed, have you taken a look at the last of the, I think, 6 or 7 Back in Black events that are going on over at Brownells?
You know, I haven't had an opportunity to today. It was, of course, a day where none of the kids had an opportunity to go to school because they're all closed, and my wife, who had an opportunity to be home, was home today, and so it was a little chaotic and hectic in my household. But no, tell me about what you have seen and what really kind of makes you just get all squishy.
I'll tell you that the Bushmaster lower that's there for $50 is still there. They do have a mark on it that it may take some time processing this. It may take a little while before it gets out because of the high demand. And I can certainly understand. It's been on sale for what, 6-7 weeks now for $50. Dude, I made the decision this evening. I'm pulling the trigger, even though I'm Not really ready for it because I just bought another shotgun, but I think I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger and buy the lower. I'm going to, and have it just set aside somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and get that one for myself. Of course, I'm going to make sure that I use the AR15podcast.com/parts when I go get that. But they have quite a lot going on. This is the Black Rifle Reductions Week, and it runs now through December 17th, and they have quite a bit, again, that's available in here. They have an AR-15 upper receiver and bolt carrier group kit, which looks like about a $30 discount on that, from $150 to $120, which is a nice little discount. They have a receiver Model 7 with bolt, and this is a really interesting piece here. Comes with a trigger, looks like bolt carrier group and some other various bits and pieces here, but it does look like, of course, that it can be used with the bolt can use 223 or 300 blackout. It looks like either or. So I guess, again, Reed, correct me if I'm wrong, they've made sure that all the little issues that might go along with any of the links there, this one can be adjusted for, I guess. Does that sound right?
Okay, rephrase that question again.
The bolt can go 223 or 300 blackout. Now I know we're talking about the same diameter in the cartridge, but it's the length of the cartridge is slightly different, right?
Yes, but that's not determined by the bolt. That is determined by the barrel that is attached to the receiver. This is a bolt action receiver. It's a Model 7. It has a bolt that is a 223 bolt, and of course the 300 blackout uses the 223, but it would be the barrel itself that is reamed in the shop for a particular chambering, and so it will have either a 223 or a 300 blackout, or whatever you are going to pursue with that bolt action build. So it's kind of related, but not exactly.
All right. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, I am the newbie here. So I've been into firearms for about 2 years, in case you haven't followed it since I came on the podcast about a year ago, and I am still learning quite a lot.
And if you'd like to educate Anthony, by all means, send him some feedback and let him know what's what.
And I'm more than happy to get that feedback. I always like to learn more. And when I was out at the range today talking with the guys, Chad was telling me about all kinds of really wonderful stuff. And he was like, "Oh, but I'm talking too much." It's like, "No, please, I'm absorbing. Talk. I'm learning." So yeah, that's what I want. You guys, please, if I do something wrong or say something wrong, let me know. I want to know.
Well, so that being the case, there are really some amazing things I'm seeing on this list of sale items, and there's a great many of these items that I myself already own, sometimes more than one version of, and so I think that you're going to find a lot of these sale offers in this week's Back in Black sales event to be really responsive to the kinds of things that most of our listeners like to use and buy. So we encourage you to get out there and let Brownells know that you're there to support us by going through our affiliate link, but also shop Brownells, because they really are an outstanding company, and I can attest to their 100% lifetime satisfaction guarantee. They've done a stellar job making sure that little me as a customer, am satisfied. So I can't speak highly enough about my experiences there.
Yep, definitely. So, we're ready to move into our main topic?
I am. And so it occurred to me as we were talking amongst ourselves in our pre-production meeting several weeks ago that there are a great many apps on various different devices that we talk about amongst ourselves to lend a hand when we're in the range, when we're at home, when we're trying to do things with relationship to our hobby. And I don't know that we've ever done a podcast where we sat down and just kind of gathered together all of the things we know and said, these are great apps, we use them, we think you might be interested in them, and this is what they do. So that's what this week's podcast is.
There's an app for that.
All right.
It's true. So really what kicked all this off, you guys, how we talked about that we've always made the joke about me, always. For a long time we've made the joke about me being more accurate with my Mosin than my AR, and then came back one day and said, no, I've actually finally learned enough now that I can shoot my AR properly, and I'm more accurate with it than I am with my Mosin as it should be. As we were doing that, I actually was talking to JW and Reed over text one day, and I sent him a picture of a target and said, look, I finally did better with my AR than with my Mosin. I was so excited. And I got this message back from JW, and look, you've got a 1.08 or 1.09 MOA on that target. I was like, whoa, almost shot one MOA. It's like, how did you do that? He's like, there's an app for that.
Now you keep talking because I'm going to go back and vet your bragging there. In any case,
maybe it was more than that MOA. I don't know. Anyway, what the point was is I'd sent a picture of the target, and by knowing the diameter of the bullseye, JW was able to pull it into his app, which we'll get to that specific app in just a little while, and actually tell what the MOA was. He had a couple of different versions of it because I gave him the wrong dimensions, but that's neither here nor there.
If I'm wrong, Anthony, but didn't you go and buy it?
Yep. about 10 minutes later, I sure did.
That I sure did as well.
Yep, and that's not a cheap app. That just go ahead and tell you guys, it was Ballistic AE, the Ballistic Advanced version, and it does a whole lot more than just your shot groupings, obviously. And I don't even pretend to know enough to be able to use the other features. I know JW does a lot of that long-range precision shooting, and that's his arena, and I know Reed is comfortable in that arena as well. But that's all new to me, but I was really impressed with the ability to pull in a target and do shot groupings, because I could take a picture of every target if I'm trying to do anything real. So I've got a bunch of those laying around, so I haven't had a lot of time yet, but I want to go back through those and see, how my groupings have been historically as well.
Well, I am looking at this, and I think your max spread was 1.3 MOA. You had a group width of 1.09 and a group height of 1.17. And understanding Pythagoras' theorem, you realize
1.3.
On that diagonal, there are some distances there that can stretch that out. So, but it's still a good shot because, I don't know that anybody would tell you that an AR is a precision instrument if it's just a, kind of a.
Well, keep in mind. That was back with my $30 Walmart 8 MOA red dot.
Well, that's right.
So,
in any case.
Yeah.
So
now I've got my new Vortex.
Discussion.
Yes, it did.
We got on there and we decided that it was time to talk about apps. So, Anthony, you've obviously gone and created an order to our show notes. But I think there's quite a bit of logic to the very first set of apps that we're going to talk about, and those are the ones that help us to get a handle on our firearms that are in the gun safe. And those are the inventory or logging or collection apps that help us basically understand what we have. So you got GunLog SPC up there. Tell me, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I actually own that app. That was one that I purchased. I think that one has a free version if you look up GunLog. But if you do the GunLog SPC, I want to say, and I tried to find the pricing on it, but honestly, since I already own it on my phone, it didn't show it, and I haven't done all the links for the show notes yet. But I want to say it was around $5 or $6. So it was not really expensive. But GunLog SPC does a really large range of things. It allows you, and of course it's not the only app of its kind, there are tons of other ones out there. There's one called GunSafe, etc., that do a lot of the similar things as GunLog SPC. GunLog SPC touts itself as a secure app. In other words, they've written their coding such that, well, let me back up. The main thing this app does is allow you to keep track of your inventory of your firearms. Not even the main thing, that's one of the things that it does. So you can go in and add inventory, take pictures of that firearm, put in the serial numbers, put in identifying information that you may have about it, notes, etc., your purchase price, where you purchased it. You can add fields to that as well if you want to, if I remember correctly. Basically, you record a lot of information about your firearm. And since you've got that information recorded into a database, my first fear was when I started looking at this app and similar apps was, what happens to that data? Where is that data kept? Because a lot of apps, once you record it there, they take that and they put that information off into the cloud. And one of the things that I loved about the Gunlog SPC app and their string of apps was that they promised that they were not going to store any data in the cloud. It was only going to be stored locally on your phone, and they gave instructions for you to back up that data from your phone over onto your PC so that you could get a copy of that. Excuse me, guys, I've got a hair here somewhere. There we go. And that meant a lot to me that they actually kept that information private to you as an individual and did not allow that information to, be redirected off into the cloud where it's possible that it could be hacked, on a third-party server somewhere. So that was really critical to me.
Especially in an era where, they're looking for, naked pictures of you, Anthony. Heaven forbid they get access to your inventory.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want people knowing everything that I have, obviously. It's not a big deal. I don't have anything illegal. I've gone through background checks for everything that I have. But, I do like to keep my own stuff, and I don't need the whole world to know everything that I have, which is why you guys don't always see everything. But one of the other things that this app does, it allows you to keep track of all of the accessories that you add to your firearm as well, which is really kind of cool. So you can see, ooh, how much have I actually spent on this rifle, which sometimes I don't think I want to know, to be completely honest.
Well, what I'd like to see is an app that would allow me to scan barcodes, because I've actually sat in front of my shelf that has my ammunition, and it's always a box of this, a box of that, intermittent, interspersed. I would just like to be able to scan each barcode instead of having to write down the weight of the bullet and the manufacturer and how many per box and all that. So I mean,
that's a very good point. I'm actually making a note of that because hopefully some enterprising programmer will take a look at this and go, there's a market, or maybe even one of the vendors
if this
will add a feature.
Of text doesn't actually make it into the show, you'll understand that Anthony was one of those enterprising guys and deleted it so he could capitalize on the idea.
Yeah.
Anthony, tell me about the NM Collector PC version that Chad of IraqVet8888 talked to you about.
Yeah, I talked with him briefly about that today, and it is not firearms specific. It is really designed for the collector. So if you collect coins, collect stamps, anything of that nature, it allows you to keep a record of your collection, and you can add your own fields, your own notes, etc. To that information. And he said it was, again, since it's software installed on your PC, it is local only to your PC and stays secure. So that was something that he recommended. And I'm going to be honest, guys, there are tons of apps out there that do this collection, inventory, etc. type thing. Let me flip back real quick to Gunlog SPC. In addition to the inventory pieces, it allows you to track your shots at the range, so you can know you went out and you shot X amount of ammo and you got X amount of groups, and so you get to keep full track of your shot log as well. So it adds that extra component there to it. So it's a nice little piece of software. I bought it. That's why I'm going back to it, because I know enough about it. But I did see tons of other things out there. I think there's one called GunSafe that does this same type of thing. Probably very similar. I didn't buy all those. I'm not going to. But there were quite a few apps out there, and most of those were not free apps, which I can understand. They're not going to be the kind of thing that you're going to send out a light version of, and then, ooh, we can let you keep one piece in your inventory, and then we're going to, pull you in to buy more.
Now, just kind of as a side note on that, I have a file that has my information in it. It's an Excel spreadsheet. My collection inventory and logging system is Excel. So
which works fine.
It does, and if you have it and you're comfortable with it, and that's the way you want to work, then it's a great thing. Unfortunately, the accountant in me makes me just a little strangely geeky when it comes to numbers and spreadsheets, and so that's the direction I went. But certainly there are a lot of good options there. I will tell you that on our next segment, one of the chief reasons that this is here is that in trying to develop a load for the 300 Blackout that I just assembled, I was having a real problem finding source information that covered a lot of the subsonic loads. And there's old content around that includes loads for the 300 Whisper, but really you kind of have to feel your way. You have to find people you trust. You have to talk to them. But I discovered there's a program, specifically Quick Load. We put a link for it in the show notes. It's now in version 3.8. But what it is a program that will perform a rudimentary calculation of the characteristics of a particular load. So it understands the burn rates, expansion, the realities of the different chambers and bores and casings and bullets and bullet weights, and it tries to come up with a general view of what that round should do in that particular configuration. So you enter in the details of what your hand load is going to be, and it will help you out. Now, of course, reality being oftentimes far different from what the best of us think a calculation can get to is sometimes going to disappoint. But for I think someone who is capable of understanding the complexities of reloading, is very experienced, and has good controls on developing what are they called, laddered loads, or good loadouts and testing data for your load. I think this is an invaluable tool to be able to go out and basically spec out potential loads with potentially new powders to see if it is even within the realm of possibility for what you're anticipating using that load for. I think that that's a great deal. Frankly, I think it's, from my perspective, very frustrating waiting for my, go-to reloading manuals to get around to the place where they can update their latest manual with, a new product offering, like a new, bullet size or a new powder that's available. And so, to me, this is a pretty interesting tool. So, Anthony, you came up with hand load. What can you tell us about that?
Well, this is obviously not a reloader, but this is one that I found that does have reloading information, and it allows you to calculate total costs of the reloading based on prices of components, and calculates discounting of reused brass, so that allows you to take that into account and helps you figure out the cost of how much it's going to cost you to load. It's only a 99-cent app, so it's really inexpensive, and it's kind of a nice little thing. I don't know if it's available on anything other than iPhone, but I do know that it is available on iPhone, and it has how many stars now? I think this is the 4-star rating. Yeah, it has a full 4-star rating and has 42 4-star ratings, so that's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Yeah, it might be something if I ever start to do any sort of reloading that I might have to actually get. I was pretty impressed with that rating. It's pretty rare to see something with that many stars that's an app.
Now, this next segment, it seems to be the most comprehensive of the ones we've been able to get together. So, Anthony, since you're the principal driver behind these options, I want you to kind of go through them and lay them out for the listeners.
Sure. Now, this is a segment I called Training and Education, which, y'all, the amount of apps you can find for training and education out there is just insane. So I just pulled in kind of a sampling of those, and some of these have free versions that I pulled, and some of these don't. The first one that I saw was Shot Coach. It's a video analysis tool, and it allows you to pull in your video and give you tips and tricks on specifics about the video, to do analysis on what to look for in your video, things like that. and then you can draw on the video and then render out a complete video for yourself so that you can use that and give that to other people. It's really useful apparently for instructors if they are doing a review of a shooter and they're going to say, well, you're really breaking your shot a little bit to the left here. You've got trigger pull, you've got this, you've got that. They can video the student and then go through and actually do a markup on the video itself, re-render that video out, and send that video as an email or a text message or post it to YouTube or whatever the case may be. It's $5. That is a video editing tool. That's pretty powerful to me. And again, it gives you all the bits and pieces that you need to be able to do that. So it looks like a really powerful tool. I was really impressed with that. And then there's another category of tools that's out there, again, for training and education. And an example of this is the DR Performance Practice Deck. And that is a category that has things like cards that you can pull for like dry fire, drills, anything like that, anything that can give you some basic drill information. And the DR Performance Deck has a free version, which is one of the reasons it made it into the list, and it does have just a few basic drills that you can pull, and then of course it has the full listing. I love the way apps do that, the full listing of all the drills, and if it's not part of the free one, you go in there, they can tell you can buy the full piece for $5 or whatever the cost is. So that's one of those bits and pieces in there that they like to do in those apps. Next, we've got training that comes from a vendor specifically, so they may have a full suite of training, like you can buy training DVDs. They'll put all that same type of training material available to you through your either your PC or your iPhone or your Android device or whatever the case may be. And those, we pulled one example of that, of tactical firearms training. Just disclosure here, I have not actually tried this, so I don't know if it's any good or not. I don't know if tactical firearms training app is great or bad. I have no clue. Because I have not bought any of those, but I did want to have a representative sample of that, and that was one of the first ones that popped up. And then we get into these other bits and pieces, and these are really, I've got 3 samples of this, and these are more about pulling the firearm apart and knowing the parts and pieces of the firearm. And there's one called Weapons Simulator, and I can only assume that they changed the name so it didn't say weapons. Maybe I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe that it's not. But Weapons, WEAPHONES Simulator, and it's actually, it looks like it might be kind of cool, but it's listed in the games category, which is kind of strange. And they have a free version. I downloaded it. I was not. It was okay. It seemed to allow you to figure out how the gun functioned properly, to like have little demonstrations on how different types of weapons functioned. So that you could kind of have an idea if you're going to go out and you're going to pick up a new type of weapon today, you want to have a look and see, you might be able to do that. And there's some sort of, if you're going to rack a shotgun, you move your finger back and forth across the screen on the picture of the shotgun where the slide is, and you can rack the shotgun type thing. And then you get into the more detailed pieces like Gunstruction, if you guys are familiar with Gunstruction, that does the online web presence so that you can go on and they have manufacturers that partner with them, and you can build, and there are a couple of other tools like that. You can build like your AR and go in and say, okay, I'm going to use a lower from this company, I'm going to use an upper receiver from this company, a bolt carrier group from here, trigger from Timney, and you can pull all your parts together and make sure everything is going to fit and work, and make sure that when you pull your optic in that you got the correct mounts. So you want, to have backup irons to make sure you're going to get your co-witnessing set up correctly and you've got the correct mounting heights. You can actually spin the 3D model around and look through. And before, I don't know how long this has been out on the iPhone or Android, but I know it was a PC-based tool before, or a web-based tool before, and that did not run on the iPhone and whatnot. But now they do have an app. Apparently, it's probably been out for a while, but it does look kind of cool. I think it's like $1 or $2 to buy the app for that. And then there's a tool called Gun Disassembly that, to be completely honest, I downloaded the free version, and I didn't care for it very much. The concept is really cool. The concept is really cool. They have tons and tons of 3D models, and you can reach in basically, using your touchscreen and do a takedown on any different type of model of firearm. And there are so many different models, it's insane, that they've got built into this thing. But it was not intuitive, number one. Number two, they categorized everything in this big circle, and it's like a stack, and it'll say like rifles at the bottom, and there'll be a stack of like 8 or 10 different models of rifles that they'll have in there, and you you can't even see what the word is that it says rifles, and everything is so small on the screen. It's really made for like an iPad or a larger screen. It does not work well on an iPhone. And you see, and it's got the little label at the bottom, but that label is covered up by an about link or something like that. It's just crossing the bottom of your screen, so you can't even really see what that label is. You have to spin the circle of labels a little bit to the left, and then kind of guess that the word says rifles. And you get around the shotguns, et cetera, et cetera. And the free version, of course, lets you see all of the options they have available again, but they only give you just a few models that you can take a look at, and you have to buy the other models at 99 cents a piece, which is kind of expensive. But I guess you probably only buy the ones you owned, more than likely, or the ones you were likely to shoot. But once you got into actually taking the gun apart, there was, again, it was not very intuitive. I couldn't figure out in the 5 minutes that I played with the app, how am I supposed to figure out how to take this thing down? And there's a demo that can show you how the gun functions when it fires, and which that was kind of neat. But when you go into disassembly mode, I couldn't figure out immediately how to take it down. Now, I'm sure if I spent a little bit of time with the app, I could figure it out. It definitely looks like an app someone's put a lot of time into, and it's got a lot of detail, so I'm not dissing the app. But let's just say the UI, to me, from very beginning, new user of the app itself without a lot of experience with it, did leave a lot to be deserved. And again, those guys, we say this all the time, but this is just kind of a sampling of what we found in this category of training and education. So that there's tons and tons of other apps that were out there and things that I saw, and some of them had free versions, so I'd grab a free version. That's one of the reasons they made it into the list, or looked really interesting, and again, that's why I made it into the list.
Well, you know, that's always the hard part when there's such a broad field of really kind of going in and narrowing it down in a way that gives full coverage to everybody. We can't give full coverage to everybody. You know, somebody we're going to miss out. And, you know, frankly, I think that's where the listeners have always been great, because they fill in those gaps and say, oh, well, you forgot this great thing. I've used it for years. Everybody loves it. And then we can add that to it and we can share the knowledge. So that's a comment for you guys, the listeners. If you don't hear about your favorite utility or tool or app, let us know so we can pass on the good news. So, Anthony, what's our next section here?
This is scoring and competition apps. So there were a few out there, and two of them that looked rather interesting and had some decent reviews was the CMP app, or the Civilian Marksmanship Program app, and it allows you to record your CMP scores if you're going to go out for the Civilian Marksmanship Program. I thought it was a nice app, and if again, I did not buy the app, I did not download it. So if I remember correctly, when I was reading some of the reviews and the description, it had the capability to go and pull real-time those scores as they're being posted during a match. So, because I think one of the reviews said, you can see if you've won before they tell you.
Well, you know, just to plug for the CMP, they've got a new web page up for the entire program. Great stuff. Excellent organization. So do put that on the top of your list of things to check out if you can. Tell me about IDPA Score.
Yeah, that's another scoring app. And what that does is allows you to take a look at an IDPA target, pull that score in and record it so that you can keep track of your scores if you're going to go shoot IDPA, and see, you know, specifically like how you've progressed through. It's a good way to keep track of all of that score information in a single location. And again, that's just two sampling of the whole scoring app pieces that are out there. And I'll be honest, I'm an iPhone user, so I'm geared towards iPhone. So when I'm searching on my phone for apps. So if you guys hear Android apps or whatever, please, you know, send us some feedback. I'll be honest, a lot of people that I've talked to, even people that are really active in social media and they're firearms guys, big time firearms guys, when I've talked to them, including you know, all different kinds of people across the different areas that I have access to, have gone, I haven't really paid attention. I don't know what's out there. So, you know, if you have some apps that you're enjoying, that you really are liking, please send us that feedback in. We'd love to be able to have that for sure.
Well, so the next group are basically shot timers. And, you know, at first blush, my knee-jerk reaction was, well, why would you do that with a cell phone? But
I can give you the reason.
Well, and I'll tell you, just recently, listening to and searching for a way to deliver a better product, researching how to set up the audio for you guys, I came across someone who basically had put an app on his iPhone and could record an entire podcast from his mobile device, which to me is like, that is ridiculously simple. I wish mix boards were that simple, but when you think about it, at some point that cell phone you have is going to probably be more advanced than most of the technology you'd have in your office on the firing line. So I can imagine that in pretty short order there isn't going to be a distinction between what a manufacturer can produce for several $100s and what you can put on your phone for $5.
Yep, that's 100% true. Yeah, I actually downloaded the 3 apps in the Shot Timers category, and I'll give you guys a little funny story at the end of this.
Oh, wait a minute, I just deleted one of those.
Yeah, I'll tell you why. You'll see.
Oh, okay.
You'll see. So the first one I got, and this is one I actually like, and I did use this quite a bit this weekend during my testing, was called Free Shot Timer. So if you just go on and you look, and I believe there's an Android version as well, go on and look for Free Shot Timer. You can find the app. It allows you to do sensitivity levels, which supposedly is supposed to make it so that if somebody's shooting 3 or 4 bays down from you, that's not going to cause you a problem. Well, I'm not 3 or 4 bays down, speaking like 3-gun bays, but I was about 7 or 8 stands down at my local range, and the guy was down there shooting pistol, and there was no adjusting the sensitivity so that he didn't come in, even though this, the phone is in my pocket. I would hit start. It's has a lovely feature to do a randomized start time, so I could use it on my own. I could hit start, delay up to a 4-second time, stick it in my pocket, stick my hands on the table, and get ready. Wait on the beep. There you go, and then be ready to go and see what kind of shots I could pull off. But I had to wait till he stopped firing until I knew he was doing a mag change, a mag reload, or whatever the case may be, before the shot timer was actually useful. When that happened, it was really useful. It was in hundredths of a second. It correctly pulled in how many shots that I fired, and then I could go back, and between that and the video footage, it was very easy for me to say, oh, well, I hit 10 out of 10 targets, 10 shots, this amount of time, and then repeat, and see if I could see some improvement.
Right. Now tell me, was your free shot timer is that the Surefire shot timer?
No, actually it wasn't. The company, and I'd have to look it up and see, and I will when I put it in the link here. I want to say the company started with an I that made that. Hang on one second, and I can just pull that for you real quick. Here. But then I did download another one that was called Make Ready, and when Make Ready starts, it's got just a large start button in the middle that you can use, and it's not a bad app, but when I used it, to be completely honest, there was mag change going on with the only other guy that was on the range, and there was me, and I pulled out my shotgun. I fired 5 shots out of the shotgun. I hit stop, looked at it, it said there were 34 shots on Make Ready. And that may be that I honestly didn't play with it, because when I looked at that, the default sensitivity was such that it recorded 34 shots instead of 5. So I said, nope, not using that one, and I just closed it out. It gets free, but it's not exactly what I would use. It's innovative applications, by the way, guys, that makes the free shot timer that I really liked. So that will be linked in the show notes. And again, it's free, and it worked for me. It worked really, really well, and I've got quite a few scores stored in there. They do allow you both of those apps if you want to try the Make Ready app. They do allow you to keep track of the history there, so they'll keep that within the app, which is nice, so you can go back and review those over time. You can put a name on it, so you can put a label on it. You can also put some notes in there, I know in the free shot timer when you're saving the score for that. And it was really handy. It worked really well. I did it with pistol, shotgun, and rifle. I know AR-15, but I'm working on 3-gun training, so I was able to do it with all 3. It was kind of nice. Now, Reed, you've put in here the Surefire shot timer. What did you find on that?
I haven't had an opportunity since I've loaded that app, but I will tell you that once again, they have a basic sensitivity level. It allows you to cancel out echoes, like if you're indoor shooting. Uh, it also gives you the ability to go through a calibration process with your device's microphone. So it has some interesting features. I like the way that it is implemented. And, ultimately, like all things, the proof is in the pudding. So I need to take it out and use it in order to come back and give you an effective review. And, you know, among the many things that we're trying to do here at the network to deliver you good content, trying to figure out how I can go out to the range on a more frequent basis so I can deliver to you guys more interesting discussions about the things that we're able to discover. So I hate the fact that I don't get to go out as much as Anthony, because I really think that the newbie should not be out out traveling me to the range. But it is what it is. So
Well, I mean, my range is 25 minutes from the house, and it doesn't have any fees because it's a wonderful national forest range, and I'm really, really blessed. I was so glad when that opened up last September. You have no idea. Because before that, I'd been to the range in 9 months probably 4 times, because I was driving an hour and a half to get hour and 15 minutes to get to a range, and then paying range
yeah,
fees and et cetera, et
yeah.
cetera. So it's
Well,
wonderful.
so we've gotten to the idea of ballistics programs, and you have
Yes.
listed ballistics AE.
And
And
that's
this,
the one
once
we
again,
referenced up front. Yep.
yes, we both have it. I put it on my device, and I will tell you that I've done several things. I've gone in and loaded targets like JW did with your target so that I can see some of the things I'm doing. I think for the most part, it's a very intuitive program, but there are some learning curve issues. But I don't think that's a downside. That just is a testament to the complexity uh, of inputs that allow you to have the output be high enough quality. I have used some of its trajectory information to go in and essentially put in some pretty standard factory loads that I use, and get some trajectory tables for those, which, in doing that, I think you really do have a better understanding about what you're shooting. I like to do that for my bolt action rifle so I can have a better understanding of what the cartridge is capable of, so that I can see if that capability is reflected in performance when I'm at the range. So, I've put it to some, small measure of use, and I'm very thrilled with it. Obviously, um, like all things, it's an iPhone app, and so you're trying to, use your, you know, ham-fisted, digits here to get in here and make little bitty selections and, change settings. And so it can be a little frustrating, but, once again, it's not an indictment of the program. It's the fact that I'm on the smallest of the available, not retired yet iPhones. So I need to get a 6 Plus. I think I'm going to need the plus
Yes.
sized icons and screen as I grow older. So that'll help me out. Anyways, so I think it's a good app, and that is really the extent of what I've done with it. But there are a host of other features that just I haven't even begun to put into play yet. So, Anthony, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, like I've said before, I haven't really gotten into the ballistic side of things much, other than trying to learn some basic bullet paths for my rifles. So I can't really speak to that aspect, but I did really like the fact that I could go and take my existing photographs that I've taken of my targets over the last couple of years and pull those in and start to see when I was actually trying to do a grouping, whether what kind of actual grouping it was without having to pull out a caliper and do measurements and that type of thing. It was something that I think is a very handy thing to have, and I definitely think that would be something that will be very useful. And as I continue to move into more accurate shooting and my skills improve, I think the ballistic piece will be better, will be really great. Now we should say This is not a cheap app. Not this version, anyway. Not the Ballistics AE. There's several versions of this app. I think there's a Ballistics Standard that's less expensive. But guys, now I almost did not pay the full. I almost went for the Ballistic Standard, and I won't tell you that I've done a comparison recently because I haven't, because it's been a while ago that I actually purchased this. But Ballistics AE is $20. The full advanced version is $20, so it's not cheap. But everything that I read about that app when we talked about the AE version was really high end and good quality, which is one of the reasons I went and made that purchase. I looked at the reviews, and that's definitely one of the things I would recommend that you guys do when you go to pick an app. Don't pick an app with no reviews unless it's free. So, or unless it's 99 cents and you don't care if it sucks. Right. So that's a big point right there.
So the next two, which I think really I haven't had any experience with, but what we did is we once again we have polled some of the hosts on other shows, and so on one of these, Nick over at Practically Tactical has he's standing behind, and the other is it Savage 1R?
Yep, that's him.
Is that some abbreviation that I can't quite fit together? In any case, Savage 1R or Jeremy P over at We Like Shooting, they both stood behind this other app. So JW, why don't you take those on and tell them what we know?
Well, I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to look at those apps too much. When I pinged these guys and said, so okay, so you like the app, what is it that you like? You have the app, what is it that you like about it? What is it you don't like about it? And the answer I got back from both those guys was, it works. It does what it said it's going to do. So, that's pretty good, to be completely honest. If you've got a ballistics app and it does what it says it's going to do, that's a pretty good review, honestly.
Well, and I'll tell you, the Strelok ballistic calculator has over 4,000 reviews, and it's still at just over 4.5 stars.
That's impressive.
It would be very hard to actually deliver on that. The other one, spot on. It's a product by Nikon. It has, I think, overall, like it's batting, 50%. But even at that, I'm still more comfortable with batting 50%. Let's see. The iTunes says it's rated 4+, so I'm not sure what that means. If all versions have 2.5 stars. Yeah, I guess go figure. But the point is that I think if it works, then there's probably some measure of ranking that is about it not doing what somebody thinks it's supposed to do for you, and they're mad at you for not having implemented that feature, which I think is kind of unfair to judge something for what they decided not to put in it, rather than judging for something for what it has in it. But that's mere speculation. I can't really tell you. In any case, I think certainly if the host of Practically Tactical is going to stand behind it, by all means, give it a shot.
What we have next is this is a category of apps, and again, I just pulled a couple that were representative samples here. Are apps that are used while they're not used directly for your firearms per se. They are often used as communication type apps. So maybe it's a magazine, maybe it's a news app or organizational app. And a couple of them that I pulled the NRA app. There are several different NRA apps out there. There's just a generic one that can give you basic news about the NRA, what things you need to be worried about, what things you need to be paying attention to, how to contact your local political people, whether they be senators, congressmen, etc. So that's an app that I have, and I use that app every couple of weeks. Just pop it open and take a look and see what's going on. Most of the time I try to follow that through other sources as well, but it's a good place to go if I'm thinking, I don't remember what's going on right now specific to the firearms world. I want to take a look and see. So I do like the NRA app. Recoil, Recoil Magazine has an app. I don't have that app. I don't haven't subscribed to that magazine yet. I do plan on doing that. I'm hoping maybe I get that for Christmas, so I'm holding off till after December 25th. But hopefully I'll get that for Christmas. If not, I'll probably be buying that in end of December, first part of January myself. I love Recoil, to be completely honest. We have no affiliation with Recoil. At least I don't. I don't think the network does. But I do really like Recoil Magazine, and I think their app will be really cool. Reed, do you have any apps specific to magazine news, organizational type things that you use?
You know, I use a simple app that's called Newsify, and I put all of my Firearms Insider, what do you call them, RSS feeds? Is that the right terminology, or am I
That's right.
showing
You got
my
it.
age again?
You got it.
Anyways, I put them all in here, and it goes out, it downloads the latest posts, puts them in a central place, and I can view them in a chronological order from all of them, or I can go from site to site. And it helps me kind of take the temperature of things on a routine basis, so that I'm fairly aware. I'm sure that there are, this is probably a second or a third hand news source for most people. I'm sure there are like, direct line contacts that you can develop, but frankly, I don't have the time for that. I'm not geared towards that. I'm involved in other aspects of my professional life that don't give me that opportunity. So this is a really great way for me to stay on top of, what company has got a sale coming on, who just released a new product, what major industry news things are happening that I might be interested in. And I've got a lot of them on here that I'm sure you're all familiar with. I've got a few that are a little obscure and more related to the military and procurement side of things, and that's just me and my particular bent on it. But it's a great utility, but it's not specifically firearms related. So Anthony, what did you intend by the law-based apps, and tell me about this piece of it?
Well, it seems like it would be a category to me, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but there seem to be several types of apps out there that deal with firearms law specifically. And one of the apps I pulled as an example is called CCW. And it is basically it tracks reciprocity, what the laws are for concealed carry in the different 50 states, and allows you. I would assume, again, I don't have this app, I haven't purchased it, but I would assume that they keep this updated on a regular basis when laws change. And if you want to, pull up your phone without going into, look up a website or anything, just pull an app, click on a state, and you'll be able to see whether or not your concealed carry permit is going to be legal. You'll be able to see, hopefully, what rules there might be regarding concealed carry in any given specific state. And then there are a lot of other apps out there that I saw that did not make the list because they didn't necessarily have any reviews, and I didn't want to pull anything with no reviews, but they would deal with firearms laws by state, and I can't remember the names of them now, and that might give you a full list of maybe they're interesting and good to have for transport information. If you're going to be transporting your firearms across state lines, obviously you have to know what the rules are for every state you go through when you're dealing with transport, etc., etc. So that's kind of what I was looking at by the law category.
Well, I think that's a pretty good utility there. I'm looking at the detail here, and I think really from the professional side of things, we have 50 states, 50 different bodies of law. It's hard enough for one person to keep up with one body of law. I'm always just kind of anxious at the prospect of relying on somebody else to try to keep up with those other 49 states when it affects me. So, obviously if they're going to stay on top of that, then they're going to be able to do that job. And I think that if you can stay on top of the decision tree and making sure that when you go out and buy a piece of software like this, you're getting it from someone who is going to follow through on that piece, then you're going to be fine. But I do definitely think that it is important. I can't remember the news source, but obviously this is something that affects, I believe, truck drivers in a very real and personal way, because here they are
Definitely.
sometimes carrying some pretty substantially valuable cargoes across state lines, and they don't always have the luxury of being able to carry. And I think that's unfortunate considering the job that they do. So when it comes down to it, anything that can help someone out in figuring out a very complex arena, it's got to be helpful. So what about forums? Tell us what your thought is there.
Well, this could have gone in the communication arena, but to me, there are so many of these that they kind of almost demanded their own separate category. And again, I only pulled two. There's apps out there that basically allow you to track what's going on in specific forums. Like there is an app called Tapatalk, if you're familiar with the Tapatalk app, and it is used by a bunch of different forums that use a certain type of forum software, and you can follow posts, you can follow sub forums and sub categories, and look for things with certain tags, etc. And I use the Tapatalk app specifically to follow the Brian Enos forums, and specifically to follow some specific threads about specific guns that I know some professionals are posting good opinions in,
Right.
some actual professional people that are competing, and so I want to keep up with what they're saying about these guns, and so I can easily follow those. When somebody posts in that, it automatically gives me a notification on my phone, so that I know there's a new post to go look at. I don't even have to think about it. It pops up on my phone for me, which is nice. And then there are things like the Glock forum app that actually is official and follows the Glock forums themselves. It's not necessarily posted by Glock, but it does follow the Glock forums that Glock runs. So that's kind of a nice thing that that gives you that capability to be able to see manufacturers' forums, which have all kinds of good information out there from those specific communities as well. So there are tons of those out there, from Ruger to just about every manufacturer is going to have their own app. Even if the manufacturer themselves didn't build the app, they may have hired a third party to build and publish that app that's going to follow their forum. So again, if you've got an interest in a specific area, those forum apps can be really useful.
Well, I have to tell you, every time the forum, I load it up in my iPhone, and I see the little pop-up that says, "Do you want to view this through this app?" I think it's the
Say no.
app that always comes
It
up.
is. It is, and that's one of the reasons that I love Tapatalk. It really is nice. I saw that same pop and I went, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Close it out. Close it out. Close it out for years. And I finally went and installed it, and I don't know why I didn't do it before, to be honest.
All right, so let's talk about some miscellaneous tools.
Yeah, and these are, maybe useful, may not be useful, just depending on your use for them. And I really couldn't find a specific category for these, so I just kind of tossed them underneath the miscellaneous area. But there's one called a MilDot rangefinder, and it's kind of neat. It's a free app. You load up the rangefinder app, and you just kind of hold it out in front of you and size the target to about what you visually see in front of you. And you size it using a two-finger, pinch or squeeze apart type thing. And you see how big the target is, and it's got a MilDot reticle on the thing, and then it'll tell you based on the size that you've given how far away it is. And I thought, I wonder if this works. So while I was out with the Iraq veteran guys, we had a 300-yard range out there, and they've got a 22-inch piece of steel, round steel, sitting out there, and I squeezed that thing down so it was visually about the same size as that 22-inch piece of steel, and told it that I knew the target was 22 inches, and it was 300 yards. Like, wow, it really works. So if it's a man-sized thing, you can assume it's a man-sized, and was it 16 inches or something like that at the shoulder? I forget exactly now. There's a set width that you use as an average for shoulder width. If it's this wide and this tall, what the target size probably is about, then you can figure out the distance with that app, which was kind of cool. And it helped. Not only did it help you figure out the distance, it helps you learn how to read a MilDot, which is also an educational piece.
Well, that's a very valuable system for range finding. So can't imagine that it's in any way there's any negative here. And I'm looking at the site here. I've actually downloaded the app. I'm so interested.
Yeah, I actually pulled it down when I found it too. It's free, so why not?
Yeah. And to that degree, Tom Holston, the developer, also has a MilDOT trajectory program. It is a fee program, but I'm assuming that's because they have a great deal more capabilities programmed into it.
I would assume so.
But yeah, it just looks like a really great product. Good reviews. So tell me about the FFL Finder.
Yeah, now this one I have not downloaded the FFL Finder. I have a local FFL that I prefer to use, so I haven't actually done this before. And the one or two times I've done it, I've just searched on the web when I needed an FFL, and it wasn't local. This is $1, but it will list all of the FFLs for you. And it's kind of nice. And I guess if you live in a larger city, maybe you want to see if you have been using an FFL that's a little bit further away, or if you're in a really small town and you don't know who an FFL might be. This, I'll be honest, I kind of question how often am I going to need to find an FFL.
Well, I apparently need them a lot more often than I need.
But for $1, it's cheap. It's a very inexpensive app, so that's good. But I could go to a browser and search and find. Maybe there's a database piece here that I don't understand, and they have some direct connection that makes it easier to use or something. But yeah, it's not a bad app.
No.
It's got 3.5 stars. So.
And the last one in our category here is from the
Find
National
Ranges.
Shooting Sports Foundation.
Yep, and they also call this Where to Shoot, but on my phone it comes up Find Ranges in SSF, so that's what I listed it as in the show notes. And this is actually a helpful app for me when I'm visiting family. Like I'm up here now with my dad. That's where I am. The background you guys are seeing is my dad's office, and he doesn't go shooting that much. He doesn't keep up with where the ranges are around here. So if I want to go shooting around here, brought all my gear up with me, I pop open this app, I put in his zip code, boom, there are all the ranges around me. I can look and I can see specifics about the range, whether it's open to the public, what type of facilities they have, whether it's indoor, outdoor, whether they do clay, trap, rifle, what kind of ranges they've got for their rifle ranges, pistol, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they got a lot of neat little features. And if there's a website, usually they'll have their website listed, so you can go get more information, contact information. They list whether or not they participate in certain sports, obviously for the SSF. So if there are certain events, a lot of times there'll be a link to some of those events if they're handled regularly, or maybe even notes. They have 3-gun on the first Sunday of every third month, or who knows what kind of schedule they're using. So they've got some really neat little features in this app, and I've used it quite a bit when I'm out of town. Now, obviously at home I know where my ranges are, I know what they do, but I'm thinking I may have to go back in and use this a little more, because I saw a post on the Brian Enos forums through Tapatalk, where a guy was actually in one of those threads that I was following. He's like, I'm headed down to Dothan, Alabama this weekend for a 3-gun match. I'm like, there's a 3-gun in Dothan? Oh, man, I didn't know. So, I'm going to have to pay a little more attention to that, so maybe I can see when some of those events might be being held.
Right.
Be kind of nice. And that kind of rounds out the miscellaneous tools for me.
Yeah. Now, you put in some things for shopping. So tell me about Ammo Finder. I mean, this, to me, if I had known this was out there as an app, I would have not been scouring the hastily, cobbled together internet utilities, internet sites that were trying to do the very same thing here.
Yeah, there are a lot of different websites out there that do this kind of thing. This app just goes out and it polls online retailers to see who's got what in stock, and then pulls it together for you into one location. And the cool thing I thought with this, because there's Ammo Bot, or there's several out there that I use when I'm looking to go for ammo, and I imagine this is probably in the very same type of range. But this does, just like those sites do, it does price alerts. So when it's monitoring, it'll refresh those prices on a semi-regular basis, and then can send you an alert. Well, if you're using Ammo Bot or one of those guys, now I'll be honest, I haven't used them a ton. I just go in there and look and go, oh, because I know something right now and I want to go look for it. So maybe there's like something you can sign up for. You can create an account on some of those websites and it can send you an email or something. But with this, I would assume, because I haven't bought it, it's $2 or $1.99. I haven't bought this, but based on the screenshots, it does say there's a price alert subscription. So if you're looking for 223, whenever the price goes below a certain number of a certain cost per round, that it would send you a pop-up on your phone and make a beep or make a sound on your phone, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, you're bound to catch a sale or a good deal that way.
Well, and I think that it can be said that prices are coming down to pre-panic levels. I don't know that they're, the same levels that you would have seen, back in 2000, I don't know, 8, maybe before then. But, still, there are plenty of people that even today are still looking for a deal. And, I was thinking about this the other day. I was talking to one of our staff, our Firearms Radio Network staff, and he basically pointed out he was at a big retailer. He walked in, and people were buying up, I think, $19, $17, $18 boxes of pretty standard range ammo from a reputable company, but it was not quality ammo. It was range ammo, like it was candy, because for them, $19 a box was something that they hadn't seen. And I thought about it in terms of the growth of the industry. I'm sure there are plenty of shooters who came to the sport when prices were stupid ridiculous. And sure, $19 is, that's a great deal for them. But, of course, when you realize, when you remember when it was $9 a box of 50 or $7 a box of 50 or even cheaper for some of you guys, I'm sure that, they don't seem to understand it. Well, we're still looking for that great deal. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a heck of a good utility, even when that, fear side of, price fluctuations has kind of gotten very, very non-relevant to moving that price.
I found another link for another similar app called Ammo Buddy that I'll stick into the show notes as well. It looks like it can help you find ammo. Be kind of cool.
I think those are good options. And then, of course, for shopping, there is always Amazon. So the Amazon app is a great app
Always.
for all of your shopping needs. But you know what? I will tell you, and I know that we talked to you guys about the network's affiliate link. Certainly fill your cart on your cell phone, but if you can wait those few moments to get to a PC and you can link through the affiliate link, you can purchase what's in your account's shopping cart through the affiliate link and still help the podcast. So I just want to say that out loud, let you guys know. So hopefully you'd be able to help the network out, but there you go. But I've used that.
Yeah, and there's actually I think there's a new URL that I heard on Gun Guy Radio. Now let me make sure this works as I'm going to talk out loud here. But there was I heard Jake talking about this, and I do believe he set this up properly. I'm testing it right now. No, okay, so never mind. I know he was probably working on. Oh, hang on. Well, if I typed it correctly, it would help. I apologize, guys. I shouldn't be trying this live, but I am. And yes, firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. So if you're on your phone, before you purchase, go ahead and put all the stuff in your cart, and from your browser, Safari or Chrome or whatever it is, if you're using an Android device, just go to firearmsradio.tv/Amazon, and then that will help when you go through the checkout process.
There you go. All right. Well, I think that pretty much covers most of the various categories we've tried to find apps for when we were at the range or at the reloading bench or just, bored off our minds. So we would always appreciate feedback from you guys, the listeners. So if there's anything that we have not listed that you use regularly, or you know your best buddy does, and you know that it's a good quality piece of software, let us know, because we'll certainly put it on our equipment, and we certainly want to pass that along to all the other listeners.
Yeah, and I was really shocked at the number of apps that are out there. When I really started doing some research after I heard JW had the ballistic AE, I was like, well, I wonder what's really out there. And then, in prep for the show, I found tons of stuff that I know I'm going to use.
It's a great deal of depth. Well, one housekeeping matter: we still have not received any contact from Jennifer Gimmon.
Nothing at all?
Nothing at all.
Jennifer, come on, talk to us.
I know that we said that December 3rd was the date. We are going to stick to that date. If Jennifer has not reached us by December 3rd, we will officially select another name. And that name has already been drawn. I've known about it from the very beginning. It was part of the whole, first runner-up, second runner-up, third runner-up. So there is a live body standing right behind Jennifer who stands to gain by Jennifer's not contacting us. But Jennifer, you have several days. By the time this podcast releases, you will have far fewer of those days. But it will still be before the 3rd of December, and we do hope that you get a hold of us. That being the case, what will happen is the 1st of December we'll have our regularly recorded podcast, and we will not have any mention of Jennifer, because by the time that podcast releases, the 3rd will have come and gone. And so if she does not contact us, then on December 8th, you will hear who the new winner is. And that new winner will have from that date for 30 days to reach out, get back in touch with us. At the same time, Jennifer, if you reach us before the end of the 3rd day of December, we will call you the winner and get this process started. So there you go. Jennifer, we certainly do hope that you get a hold of us. We have reached out to you in multiple different forms of media, hoping that one of them will get through. And, I guess it's just the natural state of things. I have to tell you, every once in a while I buy a lottery ticket, and I'm afraid to go and check the ones that are 6 months old for fear that I won a really big lottery.
And time has already gone by.
Forgot to go and check the ticket. So, no,
Oops.
I will not let myself be that guy, so I don't check, just in case I am. Anyways, that's just me. Jennifer, get in touch with us. We've got a rifle waiting for you. So with that, let's turn to some feedback.
All right, man. First piece of feedback we have here comes from Woody W. And Woody writes in, what's the difference between a trust and a gun trust? I would love for y'all to do a podcast on flash hiders. I'm very curious to know, other than looks, is there any real difference between one flash hider and another? Thanks. So, Reed, let's start us off with trust and gun trust. Is there a difference?
There is. One is a subset of the other. A gun trust is a subset of the category of trusts. Trusts are estate planning tools. Gun trusts, I think most people call a National Firearms Act trust a gun trust, but there is an animal that many people have used that is nothing more than a trust in the traditional estate planning sense, whose only assets are guns. Now, there may be some states where that is a relevant planning issue. Texas is not one of them. Because in Texas we love our guns. So the differences are basically the use to which they're going to be put. In all other respects, they follow virtually all of the same principles. I will tell you that when you have the National Firearms Act get involved, many of those provisions trump a lot of the state law provisions, and so special consideration, I think, needs to be put into the assembling of a National Firearms Act trust so that you can reconcile and square up any differences between what state law is going to tell you to do as a trust and a trustee versus what federal law is going to tell you as the owner of a Title II item. So that's essentially where that is. Now, obviously, I can sit here and talk at great length, and that would probably not really be of any interest to any of you. So let's move on to the next piece. And you know what, Anthony? I think that certainly another look at flash hiders and compensators and all of the other things that we can put on the end of the barrel would be a really good topic. I think we've revisited. I think that would be a revisit topic because I think we did have a topic dedicated to those items. But why don't we put that in our list of coming up things?
Yeah, I would love to. I think that'd be a really, really interesting topic to cover. And there's been so many new things that have come out in that realm too. That probably would be a great thing to touch on again.
Well, that being the case, Woody, thank you so much for writing in. We always appreciate feedback from the listeners. It's
very much so. Very much
podcast, so. What it is.
You got it.
The next is from Mike. He says, first off, great show, always. He says, thanks for the giveaways and show content. Been meaning to write this email for a few weeks. Show number 96, vehicle storage options. It's homegrown, but I built a bed slide for my pickup, and under it I can store long guns. They're out of sight, out of mind. He says, yeah, if you open the tailgate, you can see them, but if you lock the tailgate, it's fairly secure. He says it's easy to build, and he'd be willing to help those who have questions. He put a stop block in front of it at 50 inches so that the long guns don't slide around too far in his bed, and he says in the front he carries a portable steel target, so I'm
That's
sure
awesome.
so that he can set up shop wherever he finds a good bit of distance and goes to town. He goes on and says, good hearing protection episode. I picked up some sport ear ghost strikes, and I really do like them. And he says there's a stop gap between traditional and made to fit. So he included a link. We included it in the show notes so that you can get in there and take a look at that yourself and see what you think. So that's an excellent piece of feedback. So, Mike, thank you very much for the contribution. Then,
so our next is Mike R.
Yep, and he is a frequent responder or feedback writer, and he wants to know if we're going to have a listener party while we're at SHOT Show. You know, I think that my thought would be if we can get, what do you think, Anthony, 10? If we can get 10 people who listen to the show, let us know that they're going to be in Vegas, then is that enough to go and choose to have a gathering so that we can talk to people? And all right. So I know that we've had probably three of our listeners have said they're going to be in Vegas. I'm sure there may be many more. If we have 10 of you tell us that you're going to be in Vegas, we will announce a get-together. So we will go out there. Anthony is going to man the home team technology and be off-site. He's going to be mother for the whole operation.
Blue ship.
JW and I will be there on the ground, relying on Mother's feedback and guidance as we traverse the floor. But JW and I will come and meet you. We'll have drinks and we'll spend some time chatting and answer any questions and just get an opportunity to talk to you guys, because frankly it would be a real thrill to figure out how all 10 of you make it seem like a great many more people are downloading our podcast. So there you go. Mike, we will be there. We will have a listener party. If we can have, I believe it's 7 more listeners, let us know that they've got an interest. You know, if we don't get that, I think what we'll do is we'll just see what we can do to get together and just make introductions, meet you guys, you know, let you guys know that we appreciate you. But it probably won't be quite so organized as a listener gathering. But,
Yep.
there you go, Mike. Thanks for writing in, and we certainly do want to get a chance to meet y'all.
Always. And
Anthony, you want to take this one here?
yeah. Real quick, as a reminder, I am planning to attend the Appleseed event in Pensacola, Florida, December 6th and 7th. So if anybody is going down there, make sure you write into the show feedback at AR-15podcast.com and let me know so that we can meet up down there if you're interested as well. Our next piece of feedback comes from, let's see if I can say this properly. I apologize if I don't. Armada Sives, maybe?
Cities. I would say
Cities? Okay,
I-
gotcha. Yeah, you probably are correct, Reed. Probably correct. He writes in to say a little bit of engineering science about sound, which I'm just going to preface this, guys. This is good stuff. So make sure you listen. This is the kind of thing that I wish I could have said when we did our decibel show. A decibel dB is a logarithmic unit of measure of the ratio between two numbers. So he goes on to give a good explanation of this. 20 dB SPL, or sound pressure level, is 10 times greater than the sound pressure level of the quietest sound than normal human hearing can detect. However, our perception of loudness is not the same as sound pressure level. As a rule of thumb, and this is what really matters, an increase of 10 dB SPL is perceived to be approximately twice as loud. Twice as loud, guys, over 10 dB. Thus, 20 dB is approximately 4 times louder. Okay? By the way, I found that even with electronic earmuffs, one should still wear earplugs because when shooting rifles, often your cheek well will displace the muff over your ear and let that nasty sound in. And yes, that happens to me personally quite a bit. So thank you very much for that that piece of information there. That's a very good scientific explanation.
Well, I will tell you that the wide array of listeners that we have, invariably there is someone out there that will be able to expand on the technology or the science behind many of the things that we've raised. That, I think, is an invaluable resource. That is why you guys are indispensable to us, because none of us have that knowledge, and the whole purpose for this show is to share what we all know.
Bingo. Hey, we're a community, man.
That's right.
We all help
So
each other.
Arturo wrote in. He says, "Hi, Reed. So which email do you most frequently check?" He says, "I
None
have
of them.
several for you, and I would like to know the best one to use." So here is the rundown. We have a domain that is AR15podcast.com. I have an email on there that is read@AR15podcast.com. But because apparently either the Russians or the Chinese are fond of using those accounts for spam, we have essentially had to make that a virtual account. So anything that goes there goes to me at read at firearmsradionetwork.tv. Yes.
Just firearmsradio.tv. Okay.
Firearmsradio.tv.
Yep.
So you can email me both of those places. We have a Gmail account. The reason I got the Gmail account is it seems pretty much that nobody blocks Gmail. So many times I can get an email through there that I can't get through elsewhere. And so if you have an email from me from that address, it's probably because your servers bounced back the firearmsradio.tv. But that is when I infrequently check, and so it's probably not the best way to get a hold of me. As we develop our social media presence, Anthony has sworn that he's going to be able to get out there and get all the people that harangue you about email off our backs and get them to let our emails through to the people we're sending them to. So there you go.
We'll have alternate ways to have contact us, so that'll be good.
So Arturo continues, right? He says, I personally would like to have you guys revisit reloading for our black rifles, but specifically from a cost analysis view. So typical cost for reloading versus buying off-the-shelf ammo. He says, I realize this is a bit difficult because pricing is always changing and sales specials can skew the numbers. He says, also, I don't think I've seen anybody showcase reloading equipment during SHOT Show. I presume the vendors will be there, but interested in innovations for reloading ammo and AR-15 calibers, particularly 300 Blackout, which requires a lot of extra processing when starting with the 223, 556 cases. But by the way, regarding the whole 223 versus 556 debate, does any of it apply to making 300 blackout rounds? So let's kind of tackle this in little chunks. I do think that we have had some expression of that whole reloading for the black rifles from a cost analysis basis, and I think that's interesting. I think it would be a good way to discuss it, but I think also when we talk about reloading for the black rifle, one of the things that we haven't really focused on in a show is what do you need to do that. So we haven't focused on, like you mentioned about SHOT Show, we haven't focused on the companies that make the gear. We haven't focused on the gear that we like, the companies we like. And so I think that's something that we can definitely wrap an entire show around and go back and revisit. Obviously when we get out to SHOT Show, I think now that more and more of us have a wider array of readily accessible calibers for our black rifles, we want to understand how to reload for them well. So I know I personally am going to look up a number of the different manufacturers and ask some questions about where they're headed and where I need to go. And as far as your last question here, does any of it apply to making 300 blackout rounds in the whole 223 556 debate? No, it doesn't. The 300 blackout as a chamber does not have a close parallel that has a different specification that is being readily manufactured. There is only the one 300 blackout chamber. It's SAMI spec. The reamers are defined by the convention, and they will always be so. So you're not going to have that problem. And when it comes to 300 blackout and the guys that help with the whole reloading aspect of it, I am definitely going to talk to Hornady about the bullets that I love and like to reload that they discontinued. So if you want to go and harass anybody for some decision they've made, I certainly have no problem with seeing why it is that they made it for you. So let me know that too if that's one of your SHOT Show wishes you'd like to have us follow through on. Arturo, thank you for writing in. You really do make the show very broad with some really good questions, and we do appreciate your feedback. So, Anthony, you want to start off with our next piece from Travis D?
Yes, sir. So Travis D writes in, and he says, "Hello, I want to share with you that I've been thoroughly enjoying your podcast and began listening prior to beginning my own build." Thank you, Travis. Appreciate that. Attached is my rifle. Build, really? Whole rifle? You're giving it to us? No. Okay. Built from various parts picked up over time to serve several roles. Parts include Spikes Lower, Rock River National Match 2-stage trigger and parts kit, mag pull MOE plus grip, and UBR stock. Stag upper, Colt overrun 16-inch barrel with a 1 1/8 twist, silencer code, trifecta flash hider, ALG defense, M-lock handguard, mag pull MBUS Pro sights, Vortex HST 4-16 by 44 scope with American Defense Recon mount, swappable with an EOTech EXPS-3-4 for his home defense, I'm assuming. Not visible are Magpul MS4 sling. I'm guessing there must have been a picture he attached with this in the email, perhaps. 10 and 30 round G3 magazines. He says it's been enjoyable so far, just as the podcast has, but not nearly as many hours or rounds through it. Thank you for all you provide for us listeners. No, thank you, Travis, for sending that wonderful build in.
Well, Travis, I think you got some outstanding parts there. You've made some really good decisions. I don't think you can be faulted on any of your choices. But you know what? Well, as soon as you do have a little more time to put some rounds down range, let us know how it shoots. We always like to hear back. So, our next piece comes from Gene C. in the past, and he writes in, "I am pleased to announce that I finally got the okay from my wife to purchase my first AR-15.
Congratulations."
He says, I've been eyeing the Colt LE 6920 ME-B Magpul series. He says, I have rented it several times, and I really like the way it shoots and the way it looks. I was pretty much set on getting it for myself as an early Christmas present. That is until I heard the news regarding Colt's financial problems. I am not too keen on buying a product from a company that cannot financial obligations. So what are your thoughts on purchasing a Colt AR-15 given the circumstances? Says, I would appreciate any feedback on this and keep up the great work. All right, so Gene, uh, my legal bag here, and here's my take on it. So first and foremost, Colt makes a good rifle. The business side of it is different from the factory floor side of it. Sometimes they mix, and bad leadership on the business side is what causes things to happen on the floor that make people dissatisfied. I don't think Colt has that problem. The reality of modern corporate entities is that a lot of times these really good companies are bought from, the twilight year owners, and they're ready for that, payout because they want to be snowbirds. They don't want to be on the factory floor day after day. They want to retire. Colt's not that company, but long ago it was, and Colt has transitioned into a publicly held company, and I think they may be owned by an equity group right now. So that leads to a whole host of management issues where they're trying to maximize their money because they bought the company with money that someone lent them, and they have obligations. So all that to say, just because a company can't meet its financial obligations, that doesn't mean it's the company's fault. It could be your equity holder's fault because he borrowed a ton of money to buy a company that maybe he couldn't afford to buy. And to just kind of divorce yourself from the whole idea of whether or not it can or not meet its needs, whether it is or isn't going to go into bankruptcy, whatever is going to happen with it. What I think you're going to see in reality, much like with American Airlines, no matter how many times it goes into bankruptcy, it is likely to come out the other side as a whole company. Colt is a name synonymous with a host of, images that come to mind. We all know about the Wild West, Sam Colt and God made all men and Sam Colt made all men equal. All of those things that may or may not be their quotes, but we attribute to that brand. The Colt AR-15, the things that we understand about the company are always going to be a part of its legacy. If it goes into bankruptcy or if it gets bought out or if anything happens like that, it's still going to be Colt making the rifle you buy. I wouldn't buy the rifle not because of management. I'd buy the rifle because it's a good rifle, because it's well made, because it meets my expectations as a consumer. And a company like Colt, it may not be around in 20 years, but because they make good rifles, that rifle itself will be around far longer. And finally, these are AR-15s. If something breaks, there are 1,000 places to get Colt quality or better parts to replace what broke. The rifle itself is capable of being fixed by virtually any owner. For most breakages, most failures are going to be things that you yourself can fix. I would not get wrapped up in any concern about their financial problems. Now, push comes to shove, I don't know whether Colt is going to be in trouble financially in the short term, or whether it's going to be able to dig itself out, or whether this is just, some passing news that is going to be irrelevant in the long run. But all of these things being equal, go ahead and buy the rifle that you like. And because it's a Colt, I can tell you from my experience, my opinion is you're not going to be sorry no matter what the news is. So I hope that clarified it a little bit. I hope I didn't make it any muddier than it is. Certainly, Gene, if you want to talk about it more, write me an email, and we can expand on that, unpack that whole idea as far as you'd like to take it. But there you go. I wouldn't stop buying Colt just because they have a little problem generated by the equity interest holders. So I guess with that, we've come to the end of another fine show. We're at 101, so I don't know if that is a hallmark, a line in the sand that's of any importance, but if the AR-15 Podcast 101 show is about apps, then maybe that's not so bad.
No, not so bad at all.
3 more episodes and we will be at 104, which will officially be 52 episodes times 2.
Yep.
Plus another.
That's 2 years, man. That's awesome.
And I think I remember someone coming in the first 3 or 4 episodes wondering how I was going to possibly get more than a dozen episodes out of the Black Rifle.
Yep. I still wonder how we're going to come up with topics, but we already have another 8 shows planned, so.
Yep. A little bit of faith and it all comes together. There you go.
It does.
With that, let's go ahead and conclude our show and let you know that we appreciate you and we want you coming back right in, because we always like to hear from you.
Yep, whether we're right or whether we're wrong, you guys give us your feedback, and if we're wrong, especially give us your feedback if you know the correct answer. Very important to us. And you can always send that correction or any other questions or comments you may have to feedback@ar15podcast.com. You can also send us a recorded voicemail, which we got to listen to a couple, I think it was last episode, using the SpeakPipe plugin on the right-hand side of the AR15podcast.com website. We love to get that feedback like that. You can subscribe and listen to the AR-15 podcast for free at firearmsradio.tv/iTunes. And if you do get us through iTunes, be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. That helps us place higher in the rankings, which helps us bring on more illustrious guests and find more goodies to be able to give away to our wonderful listeners. Same thing goes for the Stitcher app if you're using that. Make sure to leave us a review over there as well. You can share your pics with us on our Flickr group at flickr.com/groups/Black Rifle. Follow us on Google Plus and watch us live there or on our YouTube page, firearmsradio.tv/plus or youtube.com/firearmsradio. Follow the Firearms Radio Network on Facebook at facebook.com/firearmsradio, and there you can find all of the other wonderful podcasts, and at firearmsradio.tv that exist on the Firearms Radio Network. There's something there for any sort of firearms interest that might tickle your fancy. And as always, don't forget to use our Brownells affiliate link for all of your AR-15 parts, and there are some great deals on right now, guys. So go to ar15podcast.com/parts and get a list of all the wonderful AR-15 parts that are on the Brownells website. And if you go to Amazon, which who doesn't, please make sure you use the Amazon affiliate link on the firearmsradio.tv website or the new firearmsradio.tv/Amazon link before you go through your Amazon and start adding things to your cart and checking out.
Well,
that does it, folks.
With that, another fine show. We will see you all next week.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv.